Hi everyone, this is Carissa with Scrub Oak Soaps. We're located in Meredith, New Hampshire, and you can also find us online at scruboaksoaps.com. Today I'm working on Sugar Scrub. I'm just restocking some of my standard signature fragrances. This one is Rose, and I've just whipped up a batch here, and what I'm going to do is show you a little trick you can use for piping your sugar scrubs down into the jars. Now I used to use just my spoon and I would scoop it in, and that works fine. But it's kind of messy. You get a lot of cleanup time from that. And really, I'm not a big fan of it. It's a little more work. So this is a technique that I like to use at the store when I make sugar scrubs here. And also because I might get interrupted by customers. I don't know what my day is going to look like. This is a good way to be able to make things ahead of time. And then you can also save it for later, so you can do your packaging later. So right now, all I'm doing is I'm just scooping my sugar scrub down into a Ziploc bag. You can use any kind of Ziploc bag. The one that I have here is Great Value brand from Walmart. I actually do not recommend these, just because the plastic is very thin, and that will be important later when it comes time to pipe your soaps into your jars. This is just a batch of the bags that I'm using up, so I'm going to use this one today. Anyway, so what you're doing is you're basically improvising a piping bag here. I don't have a piping bag at the store, and we also need to follow our good manufacturing practices here, so I don't really have a place where I can wash out a reusable piping bag here at the store. So it's just a little more convenient for me to use the Ziploc bag. You can obviously use a piping bag if you've got one. They make both disposable piping bags and reusable washable ones. But like I said, this is what I like to use just because you can also store it if you need to. A couple weeks ago, I was in here making some sugar scrubs. I made 3 different batches, and I ran out of time. I wasn't able to package them yet into their jars. So this actually allowed me to keep the sugar scrubs until the next time I came into the store, and then I was able to package them later on. So this is just very useful. So anyway, you're going to fill your bag up all the way. You want to make sure you get absolutely everything out of your bowl. You don't want to leave anything behind because this sugar scrub is fantastic. If you don't know how to make a sugar scrub, we don't share a recipe online, but there are a lot of different recipes that you can search for. There are Facebook groups where you can find recipes. There are websites where you can find recipes. This one does use a foaming bath butter as a base. You can find those at all sorts of different suppliers. And we add a few more ingredients. This is the recipe that we developed ourselves much earlier this year. I say ourselves. I mean myself. You know, with the store, I refer to us as we, because my husband does do a lot of work, but a lot of his work is keeping the kids out of my hair, or putting together shelves, lifting heavy boxes. He does help me from time to time, especially he washes my soap dishes at home for me. He gets a round of applause for that. I really love that. And if anybody has made soap before, or sugar scrubs, or any kind of cosmetic bath and body goods, you know how messy this can get. This is not always easy to clean, although this one is fairly easy to clean. The sugar scrub, because it has the soap base in it, there's really not a lot of washing that you need to do. You can rinse it out, make lots of bubbles in your sink. But yeah, he helps out a lot, and he has helped with recipes from time to time too. But a lot of times he just likes to let me do it. I've got him trained on a lot of stuff, so in the event of my incapacitation, you know, if I get really super sick, he is able to help me out with production if I need. But for the most part, I just try to take care of it. He lets me do my thing. I let him do his thing. Anyway, so just cleaning all the rest of the sugar scrub off of the beater here. And then I'm going to change my gloves. If you've ever watched my live videos on Facebook, you know that I change my gloves a lot. Okay, so that's mostly cleaned off. I have to say also, I love washing the dishes for this, because when you're done washing these dishes, your hands are left incredibly smooth. So I don't mind washing these ones myself. Okay, so we've got that filled up. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my jars. I package these, the sugar scrubs, in a 4-ounce jar that I get from my supplier. And obviously those are 4 ounces by volume, not by weight. When you sell these products, you do want to sell it by weight. So when you put your label on, you want to make sure that you're selling by weight. We don't package it, when you buy the jars, you buy the 4-ounce size. Well, I buy the 4-ounce size. You know what I mean. Okay, so I'm going to close this up here. Okay, so opening up my jars, getting these all ready to go. I really should have done this beforehand, but you know, it's a Saturday and I've got Saturday brain. Okay, so my particular recipe fills about 14 jars with one batch. I do use a minimum, they recommend using a minimum of 2 pounds of the foaming bath butter or foaming bath whip when you're making a recipe, just because when you add in your oils to start whipping it, that gives you the best use of your product. So I do slightly over 2 pounds for my batch. And then, like I said, it fills about 14 jars. So sometimes it'll give me a little bit left over, and then I use that for samples. Okay, so here are my jars. And like I said, these are the 4-ounce size. So these come with a black lid that goes on top. So all I do now is, first I set it on the scale. And this has a fresh battery in it, so this is fully calibrated. This is ready to go. I set it on my scale, zero it out, so I know exactly how much product I'm putting in there. Because when you sell it by weight, you need to sell it by how much product is in the jar, not how much is the product and the jar. So you need to make sure that you're measuring out exactly how much product you put in there. So I do 4.5 ounces. Sometimes I'll go a little bit more. Usually I'll fill it to 4.6, 4.7 ounces, just to make sure that I've got the right amount in there. So anyway, I snipped off the tip right here with some scissors. You can see right there that as we start to squeeze it, it'll start to come out here. So with this cheaper Walmart bag, I really don't like them. But the best way to get it going is to twist the top, because I found that if you are squeezing it and you don't twist the top can pop open and then you get sugar scrub all over your shirt. That's not fun. Okay, so now I've got it twisted up and this is ready to go. So all you do is you just hold it over your jar and you squeeze it down in. I find that as I get lower down in my bag, near the end of the batch for packaging it, it's a lot easier to pipe it in. Probably just because it's kind of warmed up to my hands. So there's 4 ounces, 4.5 ounces right there. So this one's not the prettiest, but I tap it down. And then we've got it piped into the jar really nicely. No spoon scrapes, no weird marks on the top. So we'll just do another one real quick here. And like I said, as I go along, I find it gets easier as I get lower down in the batch. And the more you do this, the better you get at eyeballing how much your 4.5 ounces will be. Well, that's just under 4.5, so we'll do a little bit more, and that's just over 4.5. So first I go through and I fill each jar individually. That way I can make sure that I have enough product. And sometimes I end up putting a little too much in, and then I'll have to go back and scoop some out from one and put it into the other. So you do what you have to. I find that squeezing closer to your opening gives you a little better control over what the appearance is when you get it into the jar. And also when you've got a cheaper plastic bag like this one, it gives you a little bit better control over it. I'll show you here. Let me see if I can get this on the video. So you see how the plastic is kind of puckering right here? Got a little pucker there, got a little pucker there. There's some right here, some puckering. That's from squeezing it. That's a thin plastic, and that's from squeezing it. thicker gauge plastic for your Ziploc bag won't do that as bad. Like I said, these are not the highest quality. There we go. So as I go along, it gets easier and easier. And I try to kind of twist it and push the product down into the bag so it gets closer to the tip. So it's a little bit easier to dispense as I go. And as you can see, the more I work with this here, the easier it comes out into the jar. It's 4.2, 4.5. So I felt it coming undone a little bit up here. My twist came undone. So I'm gonna squeeze this up a little bit better right here. I really don't want it popping open on me again, as much as I love. This is my rose scented scrub. And this is my favorite fragrance out of all the fragrances that I carry right now. Just because I'm a sucker for rose. But I don't want to be wearing it all day. And I didn't bring an extra shirt. .1, 4.6. So yeah, if you go over a little bit on your measurement, on your weight, that's perfectly fine. What you want to do, I think it might have opened back here, I can't quite tell. You always have to have the minimum stated on your jar. So if your label says 4.5 ounces and it's like 4.9 ounces, that's fine. But if you say 4.5 and you fill it to 4.3, that is not okay. You need your customers to know exactly how much product they're going to get in that jar of scrub. So I usually tend to fill these up to about 4.6. And as you can see, I'm getting down to my last 4 jars here, and the less scrub that's down in this bag, the easier it is to dispense. And I may end up having to lay this out and kind of squeeze out the last little bit here to fill my final jar. But it will make it. It always does. 4.6. Okay, last jar. So when you get to that last jar, open that bag back up. Don't open the zipper part, but you want to unfold it. And because this is going to get messy, I'm going to set this guy right here. Push these out of my way. So you want to lay it flat on a clean surface and just kind of push your product down toward that opening that you cut. And this is easier with other products. This is not so easy with sugar scrub just because there is that texture in there, and that texture makes it have a grip. Morning.
Buenos dias.
Hi, I'm doing a video.
Right this second?
Right this second.
Oh, awesome.
I'll come talk to you in a sec.
Okay, goodbye.
That's my business neighbor. She came over to visit. And if you haven't been to our store before, come check us out. We're located in downtown Meredith. It's a really cute little town. Lots of great shops down here, lots of good restaurants, lots of fun people. There's a really nice art gallery right across the street. There's a really nice antique store across the street and up the road just a little bit. There's a crepe cafe. There's the best massage that you'll ever find at the wellness center. All sorts of good stuff here in town. Okay, so this is almost done. Get that last little bit out of there, and then my gloves are going to be a mess again. That's kind of the point. Okay, we got 4.2 ounces. 4.5, right on the dot. Okay, so the best thing about this, all you have to do to clean up, throw it in the trash. I'm going to pop my gloves off real quick. And then I'm going to put one more glove on, just so I can tap these down and show you what it looks like. So you see all these little, they look like ice cream cones that are swirled up. Just a few taps, and it goes right down in. Just like that. There we go. So these are just about done. Easy peasy. That one's kind of messy. We'll set that off to the side. There we go. So nowhere near as much cleanup needed for these as I do if I just use a spoon. So this one had a little bit. I'm just going to take my paper towel and wipe the rim so it doesn't get stuck under there. I've found that if I have sugar scrubber on the outside edge, the oil actually can leak down under the label, and that causes a problem for when you have your label on there. It'll cause streaks. And I do use a waterproof label. The one that I get is from Online Labels. It's fantastic. I just use my inkjet printer and the waterproof label. And it really is, it's water resistant. It does a really good job. My roommate has been trying one out in the shower for me on body wash, and it's been there for a couple of months. And it's run a little bit, like it's got a little tiny streak. For the most part, it's actually really lasted very well. And that's with daily water running on it. And occasional use. She'll use it every couple of days. So that's how I package my sugar scrubs, how you can pipe them easily using a Ziploc bag. Remember, cheaper is not always better. You might want to get a quality Ziploc bag if you plan on storing these long term. If you do store it, make sure that you write the date that it was made, what's inside, and if you're following your good manufacturing practices, your standard operating procedures, you'll have a batch number for that. My batch numbers go by date, so I write the date on there in the method that I use for my batch numbers. So there you have it. Package those sugar scrubs. These guys are ready to label. Put a shrink band around the outside, and then they go on the shelf.